The National Labour Commission has mobilized a meeting of government and striking university teachers. It's in relation with the strike action that had been occasioned, for which reason the lecturers have been out of school for the past 3 weeks. UTAG's 2-week strike, if persist, we understand, could have repercussions for the universities. Per the university regulations, the academic calendar will be cancelled if the strike travels beyond 21 days. UTAG says government must demonstrate willingness to dialogue in an effort to strike a deal on their conditions of service. Mohammed Ifum is a labor consultant. He's joining me. Thank you for joining me, Mohammed. Now tell us about the development so far. Are we making progress? We had the court telling the striking UTAG teachers to go and sit with the NLC to negotiate and deal with this particular grievance out of court. Per your observations, are there any headway? Is there any headway being made so far?
Well, for now, I cannot pretend to know everything and say that we are making a headway. But my understanding is that UTAG and governments are scheduled to meet today, or if the meeting is taking place. Okay. But if the meeting is taking place, then it's a very good development, because that is all that is needed for the parties to reach an agreement. When it comes to conditions of service, they are reached through negotiations, and I expect that if they are talking, it's a good omen, and I believe that when they talk in good faith, I believe that they will be able to reach agreement and the strike will be called off. Okay.
Tell us about the posturing, because we understand some of the teachers, they've made their demands very clear and no amounts of convincing will get them to back down. But going into this meeting that is expected to happen later today, what would have been your expectation of the parties going into it?
I think both parties should know that when you are going to negotiations, you don't expect to get everything that you want.
Okay.
And there's a need to make concessions. So I expect that if the parties genuinely want a conclusion to be reached, then the parties should be ready to make concessions. And then also look at the overall picture of the country, the inconvenience that is being caused at the universities, and make concessions for agreement to be reached. In fact, if at the negotiation table, conclusion to negotiations cannot be concluded, the matter has not ended. They must go through mediation, and that's where the National Labour Commission comes in. Either a party or both of them agree to go to the National Labour Commission for them to trigger the process of mediation for the mediator to assist them to reach agreement. If after mediation the parties still fail to agreement, then the next stage will be arbitration. And at the end of arbitration, the award of the arbitrator is final and binding, and both parties should comply.
Okay. Now, tell us about the impact of this. We know that per the Education's Regulatory Act, when the strike persists for more than 21 days, the academic calendar could be cancelled. Per your knowledge of the law and labor practices, are we headed for that point as we speak?
Well, that is an area that I don't want to venture into it. That is purely administrative matter for the universities, as provided for by the maybe University Act.
Okay.
But I think that whatever it is, I believe that now is the time for both parties to demonstrate responsibility, demonstrate leadership, look at the overall picture and the effect of the strike and the causes of the strike. And the parties should look at these things and make the necessary concessions for them to reach agreement for the strike to be called off.
Mohammed Ifum is a labor consultant. I appreciate that you could speak to us. Meanwhile, the KNUST branch of a tertiary education institutions network, a pro-NDC student support-based group, has chastised government's handling of a UTAG strike. At a press briefing, the group's president, Theophilus Berche, said government's reluctance to resolve the university teachers' concerns is evidenced in its insensitivity towards students' welfare.
In a letter dated 15 July 2021, the government was given adequate notice of an industrial actions UTAG threatened to embark on should their demands not be met properly. The intended industrial action subsequently materialized after the Akufo-Addo government failed to address the concerns of UTAG. The strike commenced on the 2nd August and has since not taken any positive turn. It now appears that the negotiations have been bogged down by a legal tussle between UTAG and the National Labour Commissions, whose duty ideally is to function as a middle voice to trumpet the grievances of UTAG for proper redress by this clearly irresponsible government. It is evident that the government, through its nonchalant demeanor, does not wish for our lecturers to restore their indispensable service so that normality can return to the academic front. The students of our universities have hardest hit by this strike as a result of the serious ramification emanating from the decision by UTAG. We are deeply worried